Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero here on the Tour Coach. Thanks for joining in and thanks for following along. It is my mission to bring you some of the best instructors, the players, mental coaches, fitness experts, everything you need to play better golf, all of the people I find fascinating that can give you information to help you in your pursuit as a teacher or as a player. It's all here on DewsweeperTV or wherever it is you get your podcast. Thanks for watching the Tour Coach podcast, and hopefully this helps you teach better, play better, and enjoy the game. All right, so joining me here on the Tour Coach is one of my students, good buddy, Ty Gingerich from up Indianapolis, or outside Indiana.
Yep.
Played at Cincinnati. We've had you on before after you won the Big 12, and I thought it'd be cool to have you on. You're staying down here doing some work, some prep, and playing some stuff. And so what did we figure out over wings and stuff at Hurricanes? It was 6 months, six months?
7 months.
7 months of being a pro.
Yep. I played the USAM. You were up there for that up at Hazeltine.
That was cool.
That was fun. That was good.
Hazeltine was a neat area. Neat
it was.
Place. Yeah.
It was. Good golf course, long golf course. Mm-hmm. I played in that, and then I guess kind of turned pro, shortly thereafter that event. And, got in, Mondayed into a Canada
event. Yeah.
Canadian Tour event.
I was in Philly during that.
Up over there at Bluebell?
Up there at Bluebell.
We've been there before, haven't we?
We have been up there. Chloe, Michaela, and the girls and the boys.
Shout out the whole Hanson family.
Correct.
And Connor.
And Connor Luke, who was on the podcast recently as well. But so you played Mondayed in. You've done some nice things. You shot a bunch of good rounds. I think it's interesting when you're in that where you got to have Monday qualifiers. You and I had this talk on the golf course one day about like you can play, and I remember early in my career, I remember Bobby Wyatt. We talked about him earlier. Like he had a series of Mondays over a summer where he felt like he was playing like shit, and I was like, wait, you shot 66, 67, 67, 69.
Right.
Like in a tour event, you'd have finished fourth.
Right.
That isn't a bad month. And Monday qualifiers have a way of they can make you feel like you're not playing good. But I'm more curious. It's going to help me as a teacher. But what have you learned from 7 months of playing golf? Good, bad, indifferent?
Yeah, I think I got started out, and like the first few things I did in pro golf was go straight into Q school in the fall. Mm-hmm. And I think like that was tough because that was my first experiences at Q school. And, it's, you don't want to play them as any different golf tournament, but in a mental way, like
it's a lot
different.
And if I can say something like and I've told you this isn't me speaking out of turn, but you played back-to-back Q school weeks where you did Asian,
PG or Corn Ferry, and then Asian,
and with not a lot of time in between going to do European,
right?
And I think you can do 2. I don't think you can do 3, and I think back-to-back weeks. And obviously, you couldn't control that, but to your point, I think that's what you're learning is
right.
And this is a word of caution to parents out there with juniors. Parents with juniors do the same thing a lot. I mean, it's summertime, so like some of these kids that are pretty good, they're playing a tournament every week, or sometimes I've had somewhere they're playing 2, and it's like you can only do so much. And so talk about what did you learn from that?
Yeah, I think like just, Q school is a little bit different, and, you got to know, you kind of have to go through them before a little bit to understand like what works. And that obviously didn't really work for me because I went out to Europe and did DPQ school, came back and had like a month off, and then went right into Corn Ferry and Asian. Whereas if it would have been,
a month,
2 weeks each, play DP, go 2 weeks, prep a little, then play, Corn Ferry, go 2 weeks and play Asian, I think is a little better stretch.
Well, I just thought back-to-back weeks like that, even not just physically, because it's a lot physically, but emotionally and mentally, I think
For
it's a
sure.
lot.
For sure.
I think it's a lot, especially when we're in the mix and you have one not good round, stuff like that. I mean, I think like emotionally, it takes
Yeah. No,
it takes a
it
lot.
was tough.
Right?
It was tough. But yeah, it's kind of a learning curve there with Q school and stuff, and I was kind of thrown right into it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
being a fresh pro. But this winter's been good to kind of get down to Florida, and I've been here for pretty much 4 straight months now of just playing a bunch of mini tour events and as many Monday and pre-qualifiers as I can for Korn Ferry and PGA Tour events. But it's been good. I've learned a lot. I played a lot of good golf and just learning how to play as a pro and continue to get better
That's
and
all you can do.
kind of do it on your own. And it's different than college golf because you're not with your coaches or your team but it's independent. And I mean, I kind of like that in a way. Like I'm on my own schedule and I know what works for me. And if when you're playing good golf, you just kind of keep rolling and and then if you're not playing so good, then you have a team around you that kind of helps you get through it and figure out what's.
Well, I think your team, when you're out of college, becomes a different type of team.
Correct.
For it could be like, I know you've spent a good bit of time here. We spend a good bit of time talking, but it can even be other players like a Will McFadden, you guys sitting over here talking. Like it can be, I mean, like I think your team becomes a different team
for sure
of people that all are that care and have an interest and are going through similar things.
For sure.
And I think that, but I do think it's always interesting to me because some people I find get out of college and they go, shit, my game is good enough, right? I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some people that it goes the other way. I've watched, right? And I think what's your perception on that? What have you found out about your game? And I don't always think that, like, to me, some of the people that go, shit, my game's good enough are not the ones that just go and win something and have status.
Right.
They're like, played some good, some bad, but like, hey, my game's good. What have you found out about your game, and what have you said? Hey, what do I need to get better at, and what that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is like I figured out that my good is really good, and my good can compete and beat people.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff I'm always trying to get better at is just being more consistent on the off days. Like you have rounds where you maybe hit it good, but you don't putt as good. It's like if you can clean up the putting, like you still maybe didn't play as good as you wanted to, but you still beat a lot of people and you still shot a pretty good score that you can build off for the next couple of days. So yeah, but I've just learned that like my good is there and my game is solid enough. Like you don't need to doubt, or I don't need to doubt like the ability. I just gotta continually to be more consistent and just try to keep playing and keep getting better, really.
Well, I've told you this before. I think the fact that you were such a good athlete, other sports before golf, helps you in this situation, right? Mm-hmm. I think when all you know is golf, everything comes about the score a little bit. And like, how many games did we win this year or whatever? Right. Whereas in golf, I think golfers by nature, I think we learn early, unless you're Tiger, that like you don't win every week. There are exceptions. I mean, at the very beginning, junior level, but for the most part, it's not a guarantee. You can play good and not win.
Right.
And so, I think that having been an athlete, that helps you. I also think a lot of athletes understand the process of getting good or improving and working your way up through different leagues and stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think that, some people that haven't done that, I think it's a bigger issue. And I've told you all along, I think that like, I would rather have a player like you that's good is more than good enough and they can shoot crazy low and help you learn to manage. Look at your golf swing and say, what's in there that maybe makes the bad day? Because that's how I look at you. I go, what in this golf swing do we need to refine so that his bad days are better? I don't want to change anything in your golf swing that's going to make the good not as good.
Right.
I want to refine. I want to go, what is it? And so that's what we've undertaken this, if you want to call it an off season or whatever it is. But and I think that to me is better to coach or better for what we're doing for a living than the person who's manages the not good days and their good is good, but like you don't look at their good and go, well, shit, like I can't do that, right? Or like that type of deal. So that's why I think you've got such a bright future. And again, I think as you look at what we kind of talked about, what in your golf swing, it was where the club would get at the top. And we've worked on improving that by a little more chest rotation. And really, we joked about this earlier with Justin Parsons, but your shoulder posture, and you hate it, I know. And I'm sure when you play, if I like had a drone that followed you, like in tournament play, wouldn't be as good as in the Bay at Old Palm. But that's where we're going. And
it's been getting better each time we work. It just gets
better.
It gets better, and that's all. I think that's all golf is really in any stage. It's just keep getting better incrementally. Like it can't be fixed in a day,
right?
But if we keep, the more we keep working on it, the more we see results, and the closer we're going to get.
And I just think like you've had days where. So now, when we text after I know you've had a qualifier or you've played in something, it's, man, it wasn't quite that sharp, but I still did this and this pretty good, and I managed it to that. Is the gist of what you say, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, that's like, whereas you're having rounds now where you're 1, 2, 3 under par, and you're like, I just kind of managed it around. Whereas I think a couple years ago, those would have been 74s.
Correct. No doubt.
And, but now, like we were talking a couple weeks ago, now the good is I went out and I shot 8, 9 under.
Right.
And I blitzed everything. So, firepower is important in this game and the ability to shoot low scores. I think each rung you go up, the need to shoot low gets less. But to get there, I think you've got to have the ability.
100%.
Right? Because I think when you get to the tour or live, whatever, and you're playing, like I was at Doral today, like you've got to be able to manage that golf course. It's really hard. You've got to figure out where to leave it and all that, and understand that, man, if blowing 20, you shot 1 under, you've played a hell of a round.
Right.
If I go to the Corn Ferry event this week, I got to shoot. If I shoot 1 under, I miss the cut by 6 or 4 or whatever, Right. And so I think that mini tours, as you've played, are even more so than that, right? And so I think as you move up the rung, so it's important to have firepower to get to the top rung, and then
it's all about consistency, really. Once you're
I think or the ability, the ability to have a big week. If you're explosive on the PGA Tour, you just have to take advantage of your good 2 times a year.
For sure. Yep.
Right? And 2 or 3 or whatever, depending on how good you take care of it. If you take real good care of it and you win, you're done.
Right.
You only need 1 week. And I think there's been lots of players through the history and through the tour, their good's really good, and they learn that they're bad. Well, okay, if I'm take care of the good, I don't have to worry about it. It doesn't. I'm gonna have bad.
Yeah.
And then there's the guys that have to make a lot of cuts, and have to get a bunch of top 20s, pop a couple top 10s here to do real good,
right?
Because like their low isn't right. They're not going to have that one big week where they go shoot 64, 63, 63, 64, right? So I think that's kind of. I think it's but I also think it's important to know what type of player you are.
For sure.
Yeah, you're doing awesome. What else have you learned? Come on, you gotta give me 1 or 2 more things. But where's the best burger? Where's your favorite place to get wings? With me,
Hurricane Wings, PGA Boulevard. That's a fact. But I think the big thing is just like being patient too. Like not forcing stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like don't go out there and beat yourself. Like I struggle with that a little bit. It's just like, I make silly bogeys from just, beating myself. And it's like,
I think you got better at that since college.
I have. It's gotten better this winter for sure. But that's what kind of really eats at you a little bit at the end of weeks when, you could easily find a shot around to, that you kind of gave away.
The one thing I think you really notice when you get to pro golf that I don't think you notice for sure in college or amateurs, like the difference one shot could make to a week or a month or a year, right? Like, and I think when you realize that, you start really putting more thought, more into the process of improving at all those parts of your game. When you're in college and you just have a day where, I just didn't chip that good or whatever. All right, I just didn't play that good. And the fifth guy played pretty good and we got out of there or whatever. Whereas I think in pro golf, you're like, oh, well, shit. Like that one shot that's the difference between playing 2 more rounds. The difference, I mean, as you know, it can be the difference in playing in a PGA Tour event.
And ultimately, at the end of the season, it could be the difference in keeping your card or
not. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's what you learn is the value. I mean, the whole thing, professional golf comes down to learning the value of a stroke, of a shot, of every shot, right? And
for sure.
And it doesn't seem like a putt this small should be worth as much as that drive you hit or whatever, but they all are the same. And I think that's what you learn, and you learn how important they are. And you've done awesome. We're proud of you here. You know that. This is like virtually the Ty Gingerich condo complex. I mean, you're like a roommate, but we love you coming down, and thanks for sitting in.
Thanks, Steve.